Welcome to my American History Notes, where I discuss the conclusions that I've drawn from studying American history. It's a survey. It's not deep on any particular subject. You probably know a lot more than I do about certain things. I just hope that you have some ideas about American history that you've drawn from studying it and not just looking at somebody else's opinion, a modern political ideologue, left or right, who tells you this is what happened when you study it. You find that it didn't. I was lied to so much by people on left and right in their opinion books that when I began to study primary sources and historians I could trust that didn't have an agenda, or even some that did that I understood their agenda, then I learned of some things that were different. So I just hope that whatever your opinion is, it's formed from your study and your own conclusions. So let's begin. We're talking about the era of Ulysses S. Grant, who served as the 18th president of the United States between 1869 and 1877. He was 46 years old, the youngest president up to that time. He was at the height of his popularity and full of energy, just what people thought the country needed. Grant was not very able as a politician, as was evidenced by his cabinet appointments. He put friends and corrupt businessmen on his staff. Some were forced out due to a conflict of business, and some had to resign. He was treated as a puppet by the radical Republicans and alienated the South even more by pushing the more obnoxious, that was his own words, Reconstruction laws that attempted to establish the black man's full rights under the law and make him equal to the white man. And he didn't like that. And most white leaders did not like that. But Reconstruction, that promise was the hope that black men would be able to have the promise of the Constitution, which had left them out basically. So here, Reconstruction was a hotbed issue in the South and North. Now, liberal Republicans tried to replace him in 1872 with newspaperman Horace Greeley, made famous to us for his line, "Go West, young man," but Grant won re-election handily. Let me talk about what historians call the Great Switch. Excuse me for just a moment. Before 1880, a liberal was somebody who believed in less government. Less government is good government. Government that governs best, that governs least. Government could not, should not be involved in our personal business and things like that. There were just certain, very limited government was what they believed. And then liberals began to believe after 1880, in that period there, began to believe in more government control. And liberal became what it is today, somebody who believes in the will of the collective over the will of the individual, somebody who believes that government is the answer for our problems and that we should have more government and not less government. Government should right social ills and right social wrongs, things like that. So that was called the Great Switch. So these liberal Republicans wanted less government and no Reconstruction. Okay, the radical Republicans would be liberals today. They wanted Reconstruction to go through and to realize the rights of black people and on others. But both of Grant's terms as president were seething in a hotbed of corruption with regular scandals. Congressmen, senators, and other officials were involved in illegal dealing in stock connected with the building of the Union Pacific Railroad, which would not have been successful were it not for enormous federal subsidies using government money to enrich investors under the pretense of bettering the nation. Think of vaccines or green energy today. Members of Grant's cabinet resigned to avoid impeachment for bribery, as did federal judges. His secretary was tried as a member of the whiskey ring that defrauded the government of millions of dollars in excise taxes and was only saved by President Grant's own testimony on his behalf. In Grant's last speech to Congress, he accepted some of the blame for the scandals in his administration due to his political ineptness and inexperience. After his presidency, he went abroad to great acclaim and respect for a 3-year tour of Europe and Asia, he and his wife being treated more like a king and queen than a former president and first lady. Renewed popularity had him run again for president in 1880, but he was defeated by dark horse candidate James A. Garfield. He died of cancer in 1885. Julia Dent Grant, his wife, was known for her high-priced purchases at the White House during the time called the Gilded Age in our country. The newly rich vied with each other to see who could spend and be the gaudiest. Grant's immediate family were always celebrities, and the newspapers created news concerning them even when there was none. She was a very visible first lady. Her own autobiography, not published until 1975, admits that her husband was a naive politician and a poor judge of character, but insists he was not dishonest. Then we'll come to a great example of a stolen election next, and how Black people were betrayed and Reconstruction was ended. Federal troops were removed from the South, and everything reverted to a sort of a tyranny. But we'll talk about that next. And I thank you for watching and listening. Whatever your opinion, as long as you're studying American history, that's what I'm looking for. Thank you.